So, in this course, I took this course because I'm very passionate about the issue of climate change, and I wanted to be more educated about the specifics of the problem. I already knew the fundamentals of most of the topics that we've talked about, electric power generation and plant photosynthesis and respiration, and the difference between C3 and C4 plants. I learned that stuff. In BIS 2A, but I didn't know the finer details, like which electric power generation strategies are more efficient, which are more resource intensive, which are easier and faster to construct, which resources are easier to extract. So I think some of the most important things that I learned in this course are probably the provisions of the Kyoto Protocol, the actual history of climate science, or the basics of the history, the inner workings of climate models, knowing how the projections that the scientific community puts out are generated is really important. A lot of people that deny climate change say, how can you know that this is what's going to happen? And if you know how climate models work, you can explain it. You can explain it to them, how these models are actually very accurate, and we know because we can test them by giving them the initial conditions for 100 years ago and seeing how they predict the weather will be today, and they usually come out pretty well. So we can trust these models. Being able and communicating that to the public is really important. The problems with government-sponsored projects and estimating the costs and benefits of these projects. I think one of the most interesting things that I learned, at least reading the textbook, was the PR nightmare that was the Sydney Opera House. And I thought it was actually kind of funny to read that little story about how overshot the budget was. Some of the other interesting facts that I think I learned in this course were just looking at the complexity of climate models, the various methods of dating and proxy measurements. Those are also very interesting and very important to know. Again, when you're talking to the climate denier, they'll often say that it's impossible to know exactly how the Earth behaved hundreds of millions of years ago. And looking at isotopic concentrations in rocks and in the ocean, we can deduce what the climate was like, and that's a very important tool. Another interesting thing is how plants don't necessarily fare better in higher carbon dioxide concentrations. I think a couple of years ago, Senator it was Rick Santorum said, in Congress, the dangers of carbon dioxide. Tell that to a plant how dangerous carbon dioxide is. There's some people who know only the basics of biology. Plants take in carbon dioxide. Higher carbon dioxide concentrations should be good for plants, so that'll benefit agriculture. They have it wrong, because it actually turns out not to be the case. Another interesting thing would be the concept of Hadley cells, which I didn't understand before this course, and how California has the largest amount of geothermal power. These are the things that I can come up with off the top of my head. I plan to go into an environmental field, but I'm not sure exactly what denomination is right for me, because it's a very broad area and encompasses a lot of disciplines, and it's why the textbook we use is called Convergence of Disciplines, and it's why environmental science is not very commonly studied at the university level or as a whole, because it's just a hodgepodge of chemistry and biology. And if you go into sustainability, you start dealing with architecture and economics, and sometimes psychology and all kinds of other things. Public relations is all kinds of policy. So I think that this course has really helped give me the tools to decide which area of environmental science I want to go into, because I wasn't really sure. I'm still not sure, but this gives me a better idea of what the playing field looks like. Probably my favorite part of this course were the debates that I had with a few of my classmates after taking tests. Not about the test, but about the material, because the people who take this course generally really care about climate change and are concerned about what it means for this generation. So I've had a couple good, intelligent conversations with my classmates about these issues, and I always enjoy a good intelligent exchange of opinion. One thing I have to say I didn't like about this course is how it was not offered this quarter in person, and it was only offered on the online platform. Because I think that in this online platform, it feels like it takes away from it being an actual class, and it's really important that we have time face to face with our professors, and it's just a friendlier atmosphere, and you also feel more obligated to participate in the course when you actually have to go to class. I really also appreciate being around my classmates and hearing their ideas, because it's just easier to have that kind of discourse in a classroom environment. All right, those are my